Hey, it's Jeff Hartman, the Neptune Man, and today we're going to talk about one of the most common things that people look up on the Maytag Neptune washer, and it's not spinning. Here we have a picture of the door latch assembly. This is a MAH 4000, and we'll get a better view here. Now this is the wax motor, and you can tell this has the black tip, and this is a new style. And you also notice there's a micro switch here. This micro switch gets pushed when this wax motor pushes out and starts to lock the door. It'll hit the little button here. All this switch does is turn on the door lock light. And then this micro switch here is the one that actually tells the control board, hey, we're locked, let's start the spinning. Now what'll happen while it's waiting for this wax motor to heat up, it takes about 45 seconds for this thing to fully extend, about 1/4 of an inch. And while it's waiting, your tub should just be rotating back and forth slowly. And if it never ramps up, then there's an issue with either the door latch, and I have had a few customers where they were getting, they would push this button and they would check at the control board for a switch closure using an ohm meter, and they would in fact get the switch closure, but the machine still would not ramp up. In that case, they had to replace the machine control board. And something failed internal to the board. Now, most of the time you look at a circuit board, you don't see any signs of, like with the Q6R11 failure, where it burns the R11. Sometimes, you'll see the R11 definitely burnt, but the Q6, sometimes it'll look normal. And sometimes it'll look ruptured. The case will actually blow apart. It just depends on how it fails. But for like a logic situation where it's not sensing that micro switch closure, it could just be an internal thing on the board, and you can't really, fix that if it's in the microprocessor. So in that case, you just have to replace the control board and try it. And you also notice this cord here, this green cord. Some are blue, some are pink, some are yellow. It just depends on your machine and what color they had at the time. But that's the emergency door release. And you see it comes out right here, the soap dispenser out of the corner. So what happens is if you have a failure in your door latch assembly, you can take off your 4 screws that hold your bezel down on the soap dispenser, and then you can actually get access to the string. And when you pull that should unlock the door. That way your clothes aren't stuck in there forever. So that's what this string is. I get people that ask that question a lot. And then if you have a digital machine, your lock assembly, the whole door latch, is one piece. And Whirlpool, when they went to the digital models, they made it one assembly. And some machines, it's based off the first 2 digits of your serial number. That's how you determine they'll have 2 door latch assemblies. Like for the MH5500 BWW, there's 2 door latches, and it depends on the first 2 digits of your serial number which one you have to get to replace that if you ever have a problem with your door latch. Okay, so again, if it's not getting this signal here, sometimes you can take this Z-clip spring out, expand it, carefully put it back in, because this wax motor rests up against this flat surface right here. If this wax motor scoots over, you won't have enough reach to hit this little button here. And sometimes taking this little clip out, expanding it, and putting it back in will keep this wax motor pushed to the right there up against this little surface. So I hope that that's been helpful, and hopefully it's an easy fix. If you have this spring clip, or I've had customers where they replace the wax motor with the black tip wax motor, and then a year later they get the problem where the door lock light is on, but it won't ramp up. It just rotates back and forth. And sometimes they just take that spring out, put it back in, and then that will get it going again in most cases. And I've had customers swap these 2 micro switches, and sometimes that helps too. So second, you have to determine if the inner basket is just rotating back and forth, or if it's attempting to ramp up. If you hear it start to ramp up, there's a balance circuit. And what this circuit does, there's 3 switches in a series loop. And if one of those switches is open or a wire comes off, the machine will try to ramp up, and then at 90 RPMs, the microprocessor checks that loop and see if it's closed. And if that loop is opened up, it will stop the tub, It'll tumble back and forth a few times. It'll ramp up again to 90 RPMs. It'll check it. Oop, circuit's open. I gotta stop. Tumble back and forth. And it never gets above 90 RPM. So you have to listen if you're having a problem and make sure that you determine if the machine is just rotating back and forth or is it actually trying to ramp up. And what the main cause is this switch right here. This is at the bottom. This is that big tub on the front. And this switch, if you have like towels or jeans, and this tub bounces around quite a bit. If this switch comes down and hits this pan, it can bump it, and then you might have to reset it. And you can take off a wire and use an ohm meter and check that for closure. It should be closed. And sometimes these wires come off because this tub bounces around quite a bit. So it's possible that your wire just bounced off the terminal, which is an easy fix. So again, you have to determine if the machine is ramping up. If it is, and then it stops, it's more than likely the balanced circuit. It's one of these three switches. Third, do you hear the motor growling when it is rotating the inner basket? This motor drive, this particular one is on a MAH 4000. And what happens is it's got a three-phase drive. And if one of the phases fails on the motor, it'll unbalance the motor because all three phases are expected to be equal in voltage and power. So what happens if you offset that, you get growling noise. And what that means is the motor will not have the proper torque to possibly spin the close. So if your machine, you might have enough to slowly rotate the agitate cycle, but when it comes to spin cycle, the motor may not just have enough oomph behind it because this motor control board has failed. And I have replacements at 12002039.com, and the newer machines like the digitals, they typically use this one here, which is the 22004473.com. And there'll be a list on there with models and the serial numbers, and you have to determine if this machine needs the motor conversion kit, which includes a new control board and a motor and a wiring harness, or if you get away with just the the control board itself. And you'll have to determine that on the website. Or you can call the 1-800-369-0999, and if you give them your model and serial number, they will determine which one you need. That's the other option. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please contact me and ask me your questions, and we'll see what we can figure out for you, okay? So again, this is Jeff Hartman, the Neptune Man, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.